Reality is not fixed. It has never been fixed. Every moment, every interaction, every choice is creating and recreating the world around you. And yet, most people move through life as if nothing they do matters. What if I told you that the very act of observing your life is shaping it, right now, in ways you cannot yet see? You might feel that is a bold statement. Impossible, even. But consider the implications if it were true. The conflicts you face, the patterns you repeat, the moments of inexplicable luck or intuition, all of them might be responses to your own consciousness. You've lived your life thinking you are separate from reality, but science and ancient wisdom both tell a different story. There is a hidden thread connecting your mind, your body, your intentions, and the world itself. And learning to see it is the first step towards stepping out of unconscious cycles and into deliberate creation. Before we dive deeper, if you've ever sensed there's more to reality than what you've been told, take a moment and hit subscribe. You won't want to miss the unfolding journey. This is where science, mysticism, and empowerment meet to shift the very way you experience life. At the core of this understanding is a principle that modern physics calls the observer effect. Imagine watching a particle in a lab. When no one looks, it behaves like a wave, existing in an infinite number of possibilities. But when someone observes it, it collapses into a single measurable point. Observation is not passive. It is a creative act. The universe responds to the very act of being observed. To put it in a metaphor, think of reality as a vast, dark ocean. Possibilities ripple beneath the surface like waves, hidden currents, and untapped potential. Your attention is the lighthouse beam cutting through the darkness. Wherever it lands, patterns crystallize, possibilities collapse into a tangible outcome. The flicker of your focus, your choice, and your emotional charge all shape how the ocean of existence manifests. Yet this is not just quantum physics. The same truth has echoed through the corridors of human spiritual history. The Vedic texts describe reality as Maya, an illusion shaped by consciousness. Egyptian mystery schools taught that humans are co-creators, weaving intention and attention into the fabric of the cosmos. Carl Jung called it the collective unconscious, the unseen mirror reflecting our inner states into the outer world. Modern researchers like Michael Talbot, Joe Dispenza, and Amit Goswami show experimentally that consciousness can affect physical systems, influencing probabilities and outcomes in ways that defy classical explanations. But here is the paradox. Most people live entirely unaware of this. Schools teach us to memorize and obey, jobs demand efficiency and routine, and society conditions us to see reality as fixed. The systems that benefit from this unawareness, corporations, governments, even the structures of education, have little incentive for you to know that you are a conscious creator. And so this knowledge has often been suppressed, hidden in plain sight, encoded in myths, allegories, and spiritual teachings. Yet that very suppression only makes it more potent. It is forbidden wisdom, waiting for those willing to step into responsibility for their lives. This brings us to the question, are you living unconsciously, repeating patterns, reacting to circumstances, or are you beginning to observe, to notice the loops, and to collapse possibility into presence? Consider your everyday life. You may notice recurring relationship dynamics, cycles of financial stress, moments of intuition that guide you perfectly. These are not coincidences. They are evidence of the observer loop at work. Your attention, your emotional state, your beliefs, these act as signals to the universe, tuning it to a particular frequency. When you learn to navigate this, the world begins to respond differently. The first practice is awareness without judgment. Begin observing your thoughts, feelings, and habitual reactions as if you are a scientist studying a fascinating experiment. Notice patterns that repeat. Write them down. Track synchronicities. These are not random, they are feedback. And as you notice, you create space to intervene. You create the possibility of conscious choice where before there was only automatic reaction. Yet awareness alone is not enough. You must also align attention with intention. In quantum mechanics, a particle collapses into a specific state because it is observed. In life, your attention acts like that observation. Focus deliberately on what you want, not on what you fear. Imagine the outcome as if it has already manifested. Feel it fully with your body, mind, and emotions. This resonates at a frequency that begins to collapse reality in alignment with your desire. To help understand this, consider the metaphor of a radio. Reality broadcasts all potential outcomes at once, like multiple stations playing simultaneously. Your consciousness acts as the tuner. Where you focus, what you give energy to, is what comes through. Tune carelessly, and your life feels chaotic. Tune deliberately, and you align with the frequency of opportunity, creativity, and flow. But the story does not end there. Humans are unique because we possess what ancient mystics called the silent observer, or the witness consciousness. This is the part of you that can observe without judgment, without reaction, and without becoming entangled in fleeting emotions or thoughts. The silent observer is the key to breaking repetitive cycles, to stepping out of unconscious creation, and to intentionally navigating life. By cultivating the silent observer, you begin to notice subtle shifts, a repeated number, a phrase in conversation, a sudden insight. These are not mere coincidences. They are the universe responding to attention, subtle guidance from your own higher self, feedback from the quantum field that surrounds and interconnects all things. This is where intuition begins to function reliably, where opportunities appear just in time, where relationships shift from conflict to harmony. And yet, even knowing this, most people continue unconsciously, driven by habit, fear, or societal conditioning. The difference between living unconsciously and consciously is profound. The first results in a sense of life happening to you, the second in a sense of life unfolding through you. This is not about controlling outcomes in a rigid sense. It is about aligning your inner state with the flow of potential, becoming a resonance point that naturally attracts coherence, abundance, and synchronicity. The practical steps are deceptively simple, but transformative. Begin by observing patterns in your life without judgment. Note moments of synchronicity. Start a journal, not for goals, but to record how the universe responds to your focus. Cultivate coherence. Align your heart, mind, and body in moments of visualization or meditation. Engage the silent observer, noticing thoughts without becoming them. Shift attention from fear to possibility. Collapse potential into reality with deliberate presence. And as you do this, subtle transformations begin. Relationships begin reflecting your inner clarity. Abundance flows where before there was struggle. Health and vitality increase. Creativity becomes effortless, and opportunities appear as if by design. Life itself starts to respond not to circumstance, but to consciousness. Yet a question remains. If reality is responsive to consciousness, why does it feel so uncontrollable? The answer is layered. Most people operate under unconscious beliefs, emotional charge, and habitual attention. The field responds precisely, but if your vibration is inconsistent, the outcome feels random or chaotic. Only through deliberate observation, alignment, and coherence does the apparent chaos resolve into predictable manifestation. This is where the journey becomes deeply personal. You begin to see that everything outside is a reflection of the inner. Relationships are mirrors, finances are frequency, health is coherence. And this realization shifts identity. You are no longer merely reacting. You are a conscious creator, a navigator of the field of infinite possibility, a participant in the unfolding of your own reality. And yet, this is just the beginning. In the next stage, we will explore the hidden ways that mainstream culture, education, and even science have worked to obscure this knowledge, why this awareness has been historically suppressed, and how understanding these layers allows you to reclaim personal sovereignty in unprecedented ways. We will also dive into practical exercises that bridge quantum physics and daily life, exercises that transform patterns, collapse limitations, and align you with abundance, coherence, and flow. But before we continue, take a moment. Notice your own breath, your attention, and the patterns in your life. Even as you watch this, the field is responding. If this resonates with you, consider subscribing and joining a community dedicated to conscious creation, where each insight builds upon the last, guiding you from unconscious loops to deliberate, empowered life. And now, having planted the seed, we move deeper. The journey does not end at awareness, it begins there. Because to truly collapse possibility into presence, we must understand the hidden structures that shape perception, the layers of conditioning that determine attention, and the practical techniques that allow the observer loop to be consciously navigated. Yet this raises a deeper question. If consciousness can shape reality, why does it feel like we are trapped, repeating cycles, unable to manifest the life we imagine? Why does synchronicity seem random for some, while others navigate life effortlessly? The answer lies in what has been deliberately obscured, both culturally and historically. For centuries, knowledge of consciousness as a creative force has been suppressed, marginalized, or buried under the weight of dogma. Schools teach facts, not fields. Governments and corporations benefit from compliance, not curiosity. Even mainstream science, for all its brilliance, often dismisses the experiments and observations that suggest mind and matter are intertwined. Yet the truth cannot be fully hidden. It appears in myths, in mystical traditions, in subtle coincidences, and in the quiet intuition that whispers to each of us in moments of stillness. Consider the work of Jacobo Grinberg, a Mexican neuroscientist who spent decades studying shamanic consciousness. He discovered that the brain does not merely perceive reality, it creates it. Our perceptions are not mirrors reflecting the world. They are lenses that filter, collapse, and even invent the reality we experience. Grinberg's work, largely forgotten after his mysterious disappearance, hinted at a principle most people never encounter in daily life. Reality is malleable, but it is filtered through layers of conditioning, belief, and emotional patterns. Modern quantum physics echoes this. The collapse of a particle's wave function depends on observation. Entangled particles influence one another instantaneously, defying conventional logic of space and time. Coherence, the alignment of quantum states, allows systems to operate in harmony. These principles are not abstract curiosities. They are the invisible architecture of experience. The universe is not a machine happening to you. It is a dynamic, responsive field, and your consciousness is a primary participant. But most of us operate unconsciously, embedded in loops that obscure this truth. We react rather than observe. We chase fleeting desires instead of aligning with resonance. We wait for external validation instead of learning to collapse possibility into presence. And yet, this is precisely where empowerment lies. Awareness of the loop is the first step to breaking it. Once you recognize the patterns, you can begin to consciously redirect energy, attention, and intention. In practical terms, this begins with observation. Start noticing patterns in daily life, repeated conflicts, uncanny coincidences, or moments when your intuition speaks louder than reason. These are signals from the field, clues that your consciousness is interacting with the web of reality. Begin a synchronicity journal. Record instances when guidance or unexpected alignment occurs. Over time, these notes reveal patterns that are otherwise invisible, and you begin to see how your attention collapses potential into experience. From observation, move into deliberate alignment. Visualization is not merely imagination, it is a quantum tool. By vividly imagining an outcome and embodying the associated emotions, you create a vibrational match for the reality you wish to experience. Think of it as tuning a musical instrument. Your inner state, coherent and resonant, becomes a broadcast frequency that attracts congruent experiences. This is why people who maintain clarity, coherence, and emotional balance often find that opportunities appear almost magically. Yet there is a subtle but critical distinction. Alignment is not control. You do not force the universe to obey a rigid plan. Instead, you cultivate resonance, awareness, and presence. You collapse potential through deliberate attention, not through struggle or fixation. And this is where ancient wisdom aligns beautifully with modern science. The Vedantic texts, the Taoist philosophy, and even HeartMath research all emphasize coherence, the alignment of heart, mind, and body. When your inner state resonates with the desired outcome, the field responds with efficiency and elegance. Consider relationships. At first, they may feel chaotic or repetitive. You attract certain dynamics because they mirror your inner state. But as awareness grows, you notice subtle shifts. Conflicts dissolve not because others change instantly, but because your attention no longer feeds the loops that sustain dissonance. You begin to navigate connections consciously, collapsing potential into harmonious expression. Every interaction becomes an opportunity to practice observation, alignment, and intentional creation. Finances, too, reflect inner resonance. Scarcity is not merely a material condition, it is a vibrational state. When attention is focused on lack, fear, or anxiety, outcomes collapse in alignment with those vibrations. Conversely, by cultivating coherence, gratitude, and focus on abundance, you open channels for opportunities, insight, and resources that appear synchronistically. The universe is not punishing or random. It is responding with precision to the signals your consciousness emits. Health provides another profound example. Stress, fear, and unresolved emotional patterns distort internal coherence. The nervous system operates like a finely tuned instrument when aligned. When chaotic, it generates illness and limitation. Practices that cultivate presence, breath awareness, and heart coherence, from meditation to contemplative focus, literally shape physiological states. The field responds to the observer within, and the body becomes a mirror of the alignment or dissonance maintained in consciousness. Creativity, inspiration, and opportunity are the natural rewards of conscious observation. As you cultivate the silent observer, you notice subtle insights before they appear externally. Ideas flow, coincidences align, doors open without struggle. You begin to operate not as a passive participant, but as a co-creator of experience. Every moment becomes an experiment, an opportunity to collapse potential into manifestation. At this point, it's important to address resistance. Many hesitate because they feel unworthy, skeptical, or fearful of the responsibility implied by conscious creation. The truth is that empowerment comes with responsibility. Radical responsibility does not mean perfection or control. It means noticing, observing, and deliberately choosing attention. Every emotion, thought, and focus is a brushstroke in the painting of your life. Ignoring it allows unconscious loops to dominate. Engaging it allows deliberate creation. To deepen practical application, consider these steps. First, observe without judgment. Begin each day noticing patterns, emotions, and recurring situations. Second, journal synchronicities and insights. Third, practice visualization with emotional embodiment. Fourth, cultivate coherence through breath, meditation, and alignment of heart, mind, and body. Fifth, engage the silent observer to notice thoughts without attachment. And sixth, experiment with small intentions, watching how subtle shifts in focus produce changes in life experience. And as you practice, you will notice the field responding. Patterns that once seemed random begin to make sense. Relationships become mirrors, finances align, creativity flows, and health improves. Your identity shifts naturally from reactive to proactive, from unconscious participant to conscious navigator. You begin to embody what can be called a field navigator, someone who moves fluidly through life, guided by observation, resonance, and intention. But the story does not end here. Awareness and practice reveal another layer, the inner landscape of the self. The observer loop is not just external, it is also internal. The thoughts, beliefs, and emotional habits you maintain collapse reality, not only in the world outside, but also in your own perception of self. Unconscious loops generate limitation. Conscious alignment expands possibility. In this sense, personal transformation and conscious creation are inseparable. The external world is a reflection of inner coherence, and inner coherence is cultivated through deliberate observation, attention, and alignment. This is where most people miss the leap. They understand theory or even basic practice, but fail to integrate it deeply. Integration requires repetition, refinement, and radical self-honesty. You must notice when old patterns reassert themselves, observe without judgment, and realign attention and emotion. This continuous feedback loop is the practice of conscious creation. It is not a one-time event, but a lifestyle, a habit of attention, a rhythm of alignment. And so, the invitation is not merely to observe, but to experiment. Begin collapsing potential into presence in small areas. A conversation, a financial decision, a creative project, or a moment of personal insight. Track results, notice synchronicities, and refine your ability to align attention with intention. With time, the observer loop begins to feel less like effort and more like flow. Presence itself becomes a magnet, drawing coherent, aligned experiences into your life. As you move forward, remember, this is a journey, not a destination. Each moment is both a test and an opportunity. Your awareness, your alignment, your observation, these are the instruments of creation. You are no longer a passive participant. You are a conscious architect, a silent observer, a field navigator capable of collapsing infinite possibilities into tangible reality. And in the next part, we will explore the ultimate stage, the transformation of identity itself. We will dive into how mastering the observer loop reshapes relationships, finances, health, creativity, and opportunity, and how you can fully embody the consciousness of a deliberate creator. We will explore the inner shift from victim to architect, from chaos to coherence, from reaction to deliberate creation. The final part will provide both inspiration and actionable tools, completing the journey from awareness to mastery. Now, imagine for a moment that you have fully stepped into the role of the silent observer. Every thought, every emotion, every glance of attention becomes an instrument of creation. You are no longer swept along by circumstance. Instead, you are navigating the field of infinite potential with clarity, presence, and alignment. This is not theory. This is the practical embodiment of quantum consciousness. The transformation begins with identity. Most people see themselves as victims of circumstance, bound by past conditioning and external events. But once you realize that reality responds to attention, this identity begins to dissolve. You shift from reacting to life to consciously co-creating it. You begin to see patterns that once frustrated you as mirrors, offering feedback rather than punishment. Every relationship, every financial scenario, every challenge becomes an opportunity for practice, awareness, and creation. Relationships provide perhaps the clearest reflection of this shift. The people you encounter mirror your inner state. When you operate unconsciously, these relationships reinforce old patterns: conflict, limitation, disappointment. But as your awareness strengthens, the mirrors begin to change. You attract connections that resonate with your alignment. Conflicts dissolve because your perception no longer feeds them. Interactions become intentional, grounded in clarity, presence, and observation. You begin to see not just people, but the energy and consciousness they reflect, and you respond consciously rather than reactively. Finances operate similarly. Scarcity is not a law of the universe. It is a reflection of misalignment. Attention focused on lack, anxiety, or fear collapses reality into limitation. When you consciously observe abundance, gratitude, and possibility, the universe responds in kind. Opportunities appear at just the right moment. Ideas flow with creativity and precision. You learn to navigate the field, collapsing probability into reality through coherent focus and deliberate intention. This is not luck, it is mastery of the observer loop in action. Health, too, transforms. Stress, fear, and unresolved emotional patterns are distortions in the internal field, collapsing reality into dis-ease. By cultivating coherence, mind, heart, and body aligned, you restore balance. Your nervous system operates as a tuned instrument. Your body responds to alignment, and vitality increases. Practices like breath awareness, meditation, emotional reflection, and coherence exercises are not just wellness routines. They are quantum tools for shaping your physiological reality. Creativity, opportunity, and insight become effortless. As the silent observer strengthens, synchronicities accelerate. Ideas appear fully formed. Chance encounters are no longer random but guided by your alignment. Doors open that previously seemed closed. Flow becomes a consistent rhythm rather than a fleeting event. You begin to operate as a field navigator, moving fluidly through life, attuned to subtle signals, and capable of collapsing infinite possibilities into tangible manifestation. Yet the most profound shift occurs internally. Conscious creation is inseparable from self-mastery. Old identities, victim, struggler, doubter, dissolve. You step into the version of yourself capable of deliberate, empowered creation. Every moment becomes a chance to practice observation, alignment, and intentional focus. The world outside mirrors this inner transformation. Relationships, opportunities, health, and creativity all align with your coherent state. Practical mastery involves consistent, deliberate action. Begin each day observing without judgment, noticing patterns, and engaging in synchronicity journaling. Cultivate emotional coherence through meditation, heart-centered breathing, and alignment practices. Visualize outcomes with embodiment, feeling them fully, not merely imagining them. Engage the silent observer to witness thoughts without attachment. Experiment deliberately, collapsing small potentials into tangible outcomes. Over time, the observer loop is no longer a concept but a lived, fluid experience. As you strengthen this capacity, life begins to feel like a collaboration rather than a struggle. You are not attempting to force outcomes or control events. Instead, you are aligning your inner state with the infinite field of possibility. Observation itself becomes creative. Attention is magnetic. Presence collapses probability into reality. This is the essence of quantum consciousness applied to daily life. And here lies the ultimate invitation, radical responsibility. Conscious creation requires full acknowledgement that your attention shapes your experience. This is empowering, not burdensome. By choosing what to observe, by aligning your vibration, and by embodying coherence, you become the architect of your life. You move from victimhood to mastery, from chaos to flow, from uncertainty to deliberate, empowered creation. Imagine observing your life with this clarity. Patterns that once frustrated you now serve as guides. Challenges that seemed insurmountable become opportunities to practice alignment. Relationships, finances, health, and creativity all respond to the frequency you emit. You become the silent observer, the field navigator, the conscious architect. This is not a metaphor. This is your reality, waiting for deliberate engagement. Every action, thought, and emotion is a signal to the universe. Every breath, every choice, every focus collapses potential into existence. Life itself becomes a co-created dance between your conscious attention and the infinite field of possibility. The observer loop is no longer something that traps you. It is the tool you wield to navigate reality with grace, power, and precision. To anchor this transformation, practice daily. Begin with awareness. Notice thoughts and patterns without judgment. Engage the silent observer. Align heart, mind, and body. Visualize outcomes with emotional intensity. Track synchronicities and refine your ability to collapse probability into manifestation. Start small, then expand. Relationships, finances, health, creativity, and opportunities all respond to this alignment. And as you practice, the field becomes a partner rather than an obstacle. You move fluidly, sensing possibilities before they manifest. You respond to events rather than react. You notice synchronicities and alignments as guidance. Life begins to feel effortless because you are no longer colliding with potential. You are consciously choosing which potential to realize. This is the ultimate empowerment, knowing that your awareness shapes your reality and stepping fully into that power. Every challenge becomes an opportunity, every interaction a mirror, every moment a field of possibility. You are no longer bound by the loops of unconscious creation. You are free to collapse possibility into presence with intention, clarity, and coherence. And here is your invitation. Begin now. Observe consciously. Align with coherence. Collapse potential into reality. Track synchronicities. Engage the silent observer. Embody your desires. And if you feel called, Leave a comment below with one intentional choice you are making today. Declare it into the field. Share it with others who are exploring the edges of reality. And subscribe to continue this journey, to step deeper into conscious creation alongside a community committed to awareness, alignment, and mastery. Life is waiting, not as something that happens to you, but as something that unfolds through you. The observer loop is no longer a mystery. It is your instrument. The field of infinite possibility is no longer distant. It is your partner. You are the conscious architect, the silent observer, the field navigator capable of collapsing probability into reality with clarity, coherence, and intention. And as you move forward, remember this: reality is not a prison. It is a mirror. It is a canvas. It is responsive. By observing with presence, aligning with coherence, and choosing deliberately, you step into the role you were always meant to play: creator, architect, and master of your experience. Life itself becomes the proof of your capacity to collapse possibility into presence. Every moment, every breath, every intention a reflection of your conscious choice. Watch closely, for the field always responds. Choose your focus wisely. Align your inner state. Embody coherence. Collapse possibility into presence. Become the silent observer. Navigate the field. Create with intention. And as you do, the universe unfolds in response, guiding you into deeper mastery, endless synchronicity, and profound alignment with the infinite potential that has always been yours. Your attention is your power. Your focus is your creation. And now, you are awake to the fact that every moment is an opportunity to collapse potential into reality. Step into it, and watch the extraordinary life you were always capable of emerge.